All right, class. Today we're going to continue learning about volume. We had our first lesson yesterday that kind of taught us what the volume was and we counted cubes. Today I'm going to give you the formula to how to find the volume inside of a rectangular prism. Before we start with volume, I want to come over here to area. Area is the size of a surface. The size of a surface. And area is on shapes that are 2D. 2D shapes. 2D shapes are simple shapes like our squares and rectangles. So I'm going to do a little example of the area, how to find area. If I have a rectangle and the length is 6 and the width is 3. So how to find area, you have to take your length times your width. Remember, to find the area of a 2D shape, you take your length times your width. So for this problem, you're going to multiply your 6 times 3. 6 times 3 is going to give us the area. 6 times 3 is 18. So we know the area of this rectangle is 18. Moving on to volume now. Volume is the amount of space inside a 3D shape or object. The amount of space inside a 3D object, the area inside. So for this one, I'm going to draw a rectangular prism. A rectangular prism is going to look something like this. You have the face of it, but this one is a 3D object. So it could kind of look like a cube. There's our 3D object. So the volume is the amount of space inside. So all inside here. If this was a box, how much space is inside? How much you could fill the box up with? So it's not just that flat surface, it's the entire thing inside. All right? So the way you find volume is you take your length times your width times your height. So to find the volume, do length times width times height. So let's say for this problem, our length was 2, our width was 3, and our height was 5. So to solve this problem, we take our length, 2, we're going to times our width, which is 3, and then we're going to times it by our height, which is 5. And that's going to give us our volume. So 2 times 3 equals 6. And then we times 5. 6 times 5 equals 30. So the volume of this shape will be 30 cubic units. Or 30 units cubed. I want to go over the formula one more time. L times W times height. So remember, this is our length times our width times our height. So since now we are working with 3-dimensional shapes or objects, we are now going to have our length, width, and height. All right, so there you go. I drew one there. So we have our length, width, and our height. So if I was to say the length of this object was 5. The width of this object was 4. And the height of our object, how high it is, was, let's say, 4. So our length times width times height. So we're going to take our length, which is 5. We're going to times it by our width, which is 4. And then we're going to times it by our height, which is 4. So when you do this, I would times your length times width first. 5 times 4 would give us 20. Next, we have to times it by our height. 20 times 4. What does 20 times 4 equal? 20 times 4 equals 80. And remember, this is going to be cubic units, or units cubed. Cubic units are the little squares that would fit in here. For this one, I drew it out for you with the cubes inside. This is kind of what we saw yesterday. So our length is 2 cubes. Our width is 2 cubes. And our height is 2 cubes. So for this one, we need to do 2 times 2 times 2 equals our volume. So the first part is 2 times 2. We know 2 times 2 gives us 4. And then we have to multiply our other 2. 4 times 2 equals 8. So what that's saying is there are 8 cubes in this 3D object. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 is on the other side. Now remember what we learned yesterday. There is 1, 2, 3, 4 cubes on that top shelf. And if there's 4 on the top, that means there will be 4 on the bottom. 1, 2, 3, and the 4 is in the back. 8 total cubes. Here's our next three-dimensional object. This is our rectangular prism. So if we look, let's find the length first. The length would be this one right here. How many cubes are on the length? There are 4. 4 cubes. 1, 2, 3, 4. How many cubes are our width? This would be our width right here. We have 2 cubes. 2 is our width. And how many cubes are in our height? 1, 2, 3. 3 cubes high. So now we have our length, our width, and our height. Next thing we need to do is find the volume. Length times width times height. So we can do 4 times 2 times 3. And that equals our volume. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 3 equals 24. So there are 24 cubes in this rectangular prism. I have built a 3D object for you. This is a rectangular prism. I want you to use the formula to determine how many cubes there are in this rectangular prism. Our length is 3, our width is 2, and our height is 2. So remember, 3 times 2 times 2. You did length times width, 3 times 2, it should have gave you 6. Then when you did 6 times the height, which is 2, because there's 1 floor is 6, 2 floors is 6. So you do 6 times 2, and that would have gave you 12. Now, the next three-dimensional object, the next rectangular prism I want you to do is right here. What is the width, or what is the length? What is the width? And what is our height now? So now you know the length is 3, the width is 2, and then you're going to times it by our height, which is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. That gives you our base floor. And then you're going to times it by 3 because there's 1, 2, 3 floors. So 6, 6, and 6. Or 3 times 6. Here's our last rectangular prism for today. I would like you guys to try and solve this one. How many cubic units are in this shape or object? What is the volume of this rectangular prism? The first thing I want you to tell me is, what is the formula you are going to use to solve this? Length times width times our height. you should have got 2 times 2 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 times 2 times 5. So 2 times 2 would have been 4. And then we would do 4 times 5 because there's 1 row of 4, 2 rows of 4, 3 rows of 4, 4 rows of 4, 5 rows of 4. So 5 times 4 equals 20 cubes. This is 20 cubic units, or 20 units cubed.